Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is HowFast. So we're going to continue with the resurrection of Hildy, the BMW. This series is just getting this car back up to its former glory. If you're not familiar with this car, I have a 2011 BMW 328i with xDrive named Vroomhilda, and she has been a really faithful car to me, and you know, she has only really left me stranded once, and that was my own fault because I wasn't listening to her. So she's got 230,000 kilometers on her. I've driven the wheels off this thing, literally. I've already replaced the suspension on it twice. I've gone through half dozen sets of tires. I've replaced the brakes and rotors before, but we've just done all of that again, this time with some Bilstein B12 and some iBox springs, obviously, and drilled slotted rotors and pads. We did that in the last couple videos. This video is about this. So it's called, the problem we're having is an N52 engine has a gasket here in between this block and between the block and this housing. There's a gasket here. This is, if you're not familiar, this is the oil filter on a BMW. So if you wonder, you know, when you're climbing under and struggling with a oil filter on your domestic vehicle, here's where the Germans put it. But in making that very simple to access, they also make it completely over-engineered and add an additional gasket, which really didn't, I mean, I don't think it needed to be there, but I'm sure they had their reason. One way or the other, on these engines, this gasket is prone to leak. This one's been leaking for some time. I don't know, you guys probably can't see very well down there, but man, the block is filthy. It's filthy. The whole front of the engine is totally gross. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that block off. Of course, one-time use aluminum bolts. Make sure you get your bolts and your special E-Torx tool that you would need to twist those bolts, and the new gasket. So it's not really a really expensive job, but we do have to take off some pieces on the front end here, mainly the airbox, and just a couple of hoses so that we can get access to that. I'm going to get started right now, get this thing fixed up, and then we're going to clean the whole front of the block off and get everything nice and clean, detail the engine bay. And we're going to go break in those brakes and see how the new suspension feels. So I'm going to put the camera down and get started right now. Okay guys, here's all the parts and tools we should need to do this job. So I've just got a drill just to make things go a bit smoother. I think this is a T10. You need a T25 for the MAF. You need a swivel and a couple extensions and your E10 Torx socket, but I think you can get away with an 8mm. I'm not sure. If you have the tool, use the tool. A pick to get the old gasket out of the housing. Oil filter wrench, you can just use whatever one you got, and some new replacement aluminum bolts. Oh, and some rags. So I'm going to start pulling the airbox off right now, and then we can start accessing that oil filter housing. Guys, as usual, it's never just a simple task with BMWs. So that that E10 bit that you'd need to get at here, if it's got a 3/8 backing on it, it's not going to fit in between that hose there. So what I did is I got a 8mm on a 1/4" 8mm on a short extension and an adapter, and make sure that your ratchet's got a lot of action. Minimal play in it, at least, because you get very little room in here. You got to go in between this hose and then reach up here and get it like that. So it's a 1/4 turn at a time, but I'll get it out. Note that if you're going to be doing this job, going to need to improvise. want to get some clean rags, soak up any leftover oil that's in here, because you're going to have to tip this back. The gasket is on the back side of this piece. Down in here, you can see where the gasket mates to. Pretty dirty all up in here. So extra careful here, right? These are oil passages. This is obviously a coolant passage, so we don't want to get any crud in these. But we do want to clean all this up as good as we can. We'll do the same to this side, and we'll replace this gasket. Alright, that's all cleaned up. Just take a razor blade to break clean. Here's the back side of the oil filter housing. If I had to guess, I would say this is where it was leaking from. Look at the mess on the bottom of this thing. It's so filthy, I'm not even sure what to do with it, because once I put this back on, I'm not really going to be able to clean it, and I'm kind of hesitant to clean it with the engine open right here. So I'm going to do a little bit of, like, I'm going to stuff some rags into the intake, cover this up, and try and do my best to cover this piece up, and then I can scrape some of this junk off here, because it's just so thick that no degreaser is going to eat through that. So I'm going to clear that off, do as much cleaning around here and all this build up that's on here. I'm going to clean all that off, and then we'll replace the gasket. Okay guys, I had to put the camera down to get this gasket started. Even with a pick, it was really hard to get out. Just the feel of this thing, I can tell pulling it out right now, it is cooked. It is cooked. And I mean, look at the, I don't know if that's just poor quality or if it was tightened down too much. I don't know, but this one is hard. This one's nice and malleable. So I gather, you know, it just got kind of heat soaked after a while, and that was that. So this thing, there's only really one way to put this gasket in. So I'm sure you'll figure it out. But before I put this in, I'm going to clean up all that crud around the housing here. Time to put the new gasket in, just like the old one went out, and then it will be everything in reverse, right? Just throw the new aluminum bolts in, torque them down, and then once everything is sealed back up again, before I'm going to put a bag over the intake here, and I think I'm going to degrease everything before I put the intake in, because once I do, there's no excess in there at all. So where's the other end of it, you ask? Down there. And you wonder, how do you get down there? Well, there's a couple different ways. You could take the whole intake off, which I've done before and I'm not going to do again. You could take this oil filter housing off again, but you'd probably want to have that bit that's down there now. So yeah, good times. Got it. Alright, that's all done now. Hopefully that's all sealed up. I expect it will be. Wrapped up the intake and the MAF so they shouldn't get wet. I've got the car now jacked up. We're going to remove the under tray that's underneath here, and then we're going to cover up over the hood with a blanket on either sides. We're going to hose this all down with degreaser all over the place here, and then we're going to spray it all and wipe it all, and then let it all drain out the bottom, and then I will put everything back together. Almost there, guys. So I've covered up the hood here and left this draping. I'm going to kind of lower it down. That's just going to keep any of the splatter from the degreaser that I'm going to be putting on the block from getting on the paint or getting on the floor and on the walls. I've got the hose here, And the degreaser I'm using is this one here, and I've used this on the internal engine components, and it worked really well. Like it like bubbles when it sees like carbon deposits, so it's really great. It's biodegradable, but I don't know how it's going to work on this stuff on the front of the block. So I got a little squirt bottle here. I'm going to put some of this in it, probably not even diluted. I'm just going to put it on just full power. Before I do that though, I'm going to take the air hose and I'm going to spray out around the alternator. There was a lot of that schmutz that was laying all around here, and little bits of it landed in there. So I'm going to try and blow out as much as I can first. Then we'll clean everything. We'll spray it with the degreaser. We'll let it sit, and then we'll come back and we'll spray it. And then after that, we'll hit it with the air hose again to kind of dry everything out. And then we're going to let it sit for hours before we start it up. Let's get started. Alright, engine bay is all detailed up. Looks much cleaner down there. Not perfect. I mean, as good as you can get with all of these accessories in the way and everything. So I'm pretty happy with that. Kind of wiped everything down. It's not, again, it's not perfect, but for today and for the job we've just done, I'm very happy. Still want to clean that though. Anyway, okay, so I've just got to put the air box back in. So I'm going to do the old YouTube snap. So we'll just do the, and it's back in. Now, last thing I need to do is drop the car onto the ground and take it for a test drive. So breaking in your new brake pads and rotors, what you need to do is you need to take the car out onto a long stretch of road where you can slow down and not worry about traffic behind you or in front of you. And you want to take the car up to about 90k or about 45 or 50 miles an hour, and you want to hit the brakes pretty hard. 5 times over and over and over, and then you want to just cruise around for a little bit, let them cool in between there, and then after about 5 minutes, 10 minutes of driving around nice and easy, you can do a slower, more relaxed braking from maybe say 50 kilometers an hour down to 20, and again 5 times, repeat it, let it cool down. The important thing is to not get your rotors and pads too hot and then stop at a store or something like that and let your rotors and pads hang out together when they're screaming hot and trying to get to know each other like this. So I'm going to run through a couple of these runs here, work these pads in, and then I'll catch up with you guys after that. Well, boys, there she is, all back together. I wanted to, say again, I really like that setup, the B12 Bilstein setup, those brakes are Max brakes. So if you guys are looking for new suspension, I would certainly consider that. Probably the most comfortable suspension. The ride is definitely not as low in the front as my coilovers could go. Still kind of looks a little bit like it's on stilts, but I think the compromise for the ride, for as much as I drive this thing, and I had said before I drove this thing 230,000 kilometers. That's wrong. It's at 265 right now. So she's got a lot of kilometers on her. So I think for the ride quality, I'm happy with it. What's coming up next for Hildy? Now, we're on part 3 right now of the resurrection of Hildy, and we've really covered everything. This car now is back to better than it was when I first got it, because I swear to you, I think that gasket was leaking when I got it. What's next on this car is aesthetics. Now, the car, when you look at it right here, you think, wow, that looks pretty good. But with as many kilometers as we've driven, this front bumper is absolutely sandblasted, almost to the primer in some spots. In particular, like here, you can see, really bad. And now I bought some front splitters for this, and I was going to put them on. I painted them all up, made them look really nice. I went to put them on. They looked like a gem on a turd. I couldn't put them on because the front bumper was so poor. On top of that, the hood's got a couple little blemishes here and there. A lot of that can just be kind of polished and covered and disguised, but this thing, you can't hide it. So what I'm going to do here in the next part for this series is we're going to pull the front bumper off of Hildy here, and we're going to repaint it. And I know a lot of you guys probably don't have spray guns. You probably don't want to go and invest in a compressor and all that stuff. I'm going to show you how you can spray paint a panel on your BMW and have it turn out beautifully. And I know you're thinking, what are you talking about? Rattle cans on a BMW? You're cheap? Yeah, I'm cheap. Wait till you see the finish. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. So we'll catch up with that in an upcoming episode. Next episode, though, I'm hoping we're going to have some engine fitment into Dudgy. You can see behind me here, he's gone. Where did he go? He's back inside HQ. So Derek and I are going to get started fitting things up in there and getting back on task here with Dudgy now that we have the engine back. We'll start mocking up the transmission, see where the mounts go. It's the beginning of the actual assembly of Dudgy McCullough. So I want to remind you guys, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, comment, and share. Put a comment down below. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. Get notified every time we upload so you don't miss out on any of the build, any of our how-tos, any of our kids stuff, or any of our local events, car races, car shows, anything car related, really. We're car guys, just like you. If you guys are looking for any of our merch, you guys are looking to get in touch with us, you can get us at howfast10@gmail.com. But I think the easiest way would be to go to howfast.ca, go on there, check out our videos, buy some merch, support the channel, and we'll catch up with you guys next time. Find out how fast we can make these cars go.